From Triple E Media, I'm Rahmat Muhammad, and this is The Backstory. Something really exciting has been happening in and around Benin City, and it's been happening since 2006. Benin City has been the center of a groundbreaking experiment in alternative energy, an energy source that is even more valuable than crude oil. It's an energy source that can even cut down by half how much you spend on petrol.
According to NigerAuto.com, the most commonly used car in Nigeria is the Toyota Camry. The Camry has a fuel capacity of 65 liters.
So, if you have a Toyota Camry, to fill that tank at 165 naira per liter, that would cost you about 10,700 naira. If you are refilling, say, 3 to 4 times per month, that means you're spending anywhere between 30,000 and 40,000 naira per month.
What if I told you that there's an alternative that will slash that number in half? So that instead of 30 to 40,000 naira per month, you'd be spending, say, 15 to 20,000 naira. And no, it's not an electric car.
It's CNG, compressed natural gas.
Natural gas, just like oil and coal, is fossil energy, which means it comes from the fossils of dead plants and animals that have been buried for millions and millions of years under the Earth's surface and the ocean floor.
This dead material mixes with sand, silt, and calcium carbonate, and methane, and under immense heat and pressure, it turns into natural gas. So, where do we find natural gas?
Natural gas is usually found in cracks or spaces where you have layers of overlying rock, spaces like oil drilling sites.
When we drill for oil, we are drilling a hole into the earth, and this will create cracks. Natural gas flows out of these cracks and into the air.
Now, humans have commercialized natural gas for over 200 years. Today, natural gas is used to heat buildings and heat water, to operate refrigeration and cooling equipment, to cook, to dry clothes, to provide outdoor lighting. But you'll notice one thing is missing from that list.
Vehicles. By itself, natural gas cannot be used to power vehicles. If you try putting natural gas into your tanks, and we don't recommend it, you won't get too far. Natural gas by itself is simply not enough juice to power the engine quicker and keep your vehicle running for long distance, which is why it has to be compressed.
To compress natural gas, you have to put it under pressure. Immense, lots of pressure. And to do this at commercial levels, you need natural gas compression stations.
Now, once natural gas is compressed, it becomes highly combustible. So it will be very, very dangerous to use in cooking.
Do not use CNG to cook. We repeat, do not use CNG to cook. Using CNG to cook is kind of like using petrol to cook Indomie. Definitely not a good idea. But it is a very good idea to use it in your car.
The idea to use CNG in cars is so good that over 28 million cars around the world are running on it or a similar variant. As of the end of 2019, Asia Pacific is leading the world with over 20 million CNG vehicles, with the top 3 countries being China, Iran, and India. And these countries are seeing the benefits of CNG-powered cars.
Now, the most obvious benefit, which we already mentioned at the start, is the cost. Petrol costs twice as much as CNG. Plus, CNG is better for the environment and less dangerous to breathe because it releases less carbon dioxide and less carbon monoxide. CNG is also not as combustible as petrol, meaning that it is less likely to ignite if it comes in contact with a spark.
So, if a CNG-powered car is involved in an accident, the initial explosion of the CNG tank will disperse a lot faster, while a petrol tank will ignite and continue to burn longer.
And if that's not enough, there is one more benefit. See, cars running on CNG have more silent engine performance, so our overall noise pollution would be reduced.
So, here we have this valuable resource that is literally flowing out into the air. If we compress it, we can use it in our cars and it's much cheaper than petrol. It's safer for the environment and for us, it's more zen.
But instead of finding ways to capture, store, and use this precious resource, some countries, including our own Nigeria, allow it to burn in a process called gas flaring. Gas flaring is the burning of natural gas that is released during the oil drilling process.
The World Bank estimates that the world flares about 142 billion cubic meters of natural gas, and that's enough to power the whole of sub-Sahara Africa.
Our own National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency, that's NOSDRA, tracks annual oil flaring in Nigeria. Now, according to them, we flared so much natural gas in 2021 that if we had captured and used it instead, we would have been able to supply the annual electricity needs of nearly 600 million Nigerians. With over 200 million people in this country, that means that in theory, we can cover our electricity needs for 3 years using the gas that we flare in 1 year. So it's a massive waste of valuable resources.
Now, the private sector and federal government have actually been taking steps to figure out how to convert the natural gas into CNG.
In 2006, NIPCO, that's the Nigerian Independent Petroleum Company, began testing the concept of CNG cars in Benin, Edo State. By 2007, they pitched to the federal government a plan to expand the project throughout the state.
The first thing that they had to do was actually establish multiple fueling stations. Now, to get gas to the stations, you can't just transport it in tankers like we do with petrol. So NIPCO, NIPCO, also had to lay down gas pipelines in and around the state to distribute CNG to the stations.
According to NIPCO, they have 15 active CNG stations and are building another 15 stations in and around Benin City. And as of 2018, they had laid over 73 kilometers of pipeline to carry the gas to the stations.
As they were building stations and pipelines, NIPCO was also converting cars that are able to run on CNG. As of 2018, they had converted 5,600 cars to CNG.
According to an article in Business Day, the cost to convert the taxi cab in Benin was 200,000 naira. But the drivers were allowed to make the payments gradually over 10 years. This repayment system was actually tied to refueling, so that every time they refueled, a payment was deducted. One taxi driver who was interviewed by Business Day said that his energy consumption went from spending 4,000 naira per day to 1,200 naira per day when he switched from petrol to gas.
Apart from cars, NIPCO has also been supplying major industrial customers with natural gas. This includes 7-Up Bottling Company, Procter & Gamble, Nigeria Breweries, and other manufacturers. Even the church is getting on the natural gas bandwagon. Living Faith Church in Ota, Ogun State, is a CNG customer.
So with NIPCO's success in Benin, the federal government now has the data it needs to scale the solution across the whole country. So what's it going to take to get CNG to the rest of the country?
Well, 1, political will. 2, political will. And 3, political will. Yes, there are technical things that have to be done, like building gas stations, building pipelines, and converting vehicles. But those technical issues have been solved. Thanks to NIPCO and the people of Benin, we have tried and tested technical solutions. In fact, the technical solutions are so obvious that Dangote is already building over 500 kilometers of gas pipelines as part of the Dangote refinery project. And 4,000 of his trucks are already running on natural gas. So, this is not an issue of technical solutions.
According to a 2022 article by The Vanguard, the Minister of State Petroleum Resources, that's Chief Timipre Silva, said that for Nigeria's CNG project to move forward, we have to convert a critical mass of vehicles. So it's not enough to convert 100 cars here and there, or even 1,000. We have to convert hundreds of thousands. And then we also need dispensing stations that will be able to service them all. To get that critical mass of vehicles converted, the government is proposing a plan to convert 1 million public transport vehicles over the next 3 years. This includes tricycles, that's kekes, cars, minibuses, and large buses. Hopefully, this will trigger a snowball effect where CNG stations are more commonplace and private vehicle owners will have the confidence to also convert to CNG.
Now, before you go and convert your car, there are a few downsides to CNG. The first is that you will lose some boot space. The tank needs to be stored in the boot, and it will take up some room.
Then there is the cost to convert, which was around 200,000 naira in Benin back in 2020. But if you do convert as part of the government program, this cost will likely be spread out over some time, which would encourage more people to participate.
Then there is the fact that you would have to refuel more frequently. So, for a 500-kilometer trip, if you use petrol, you may just fill up once and it will cover your full trip. But for a CNG car, you may have to refuel twice to cover the same distance. The overall cost is still cheaper. It's just the inconvenience of having to stop twice. But most cars, when they convert, they will keep the petrol tank in addition to the CNG tank. In this case, if you run out of CNG, but you have petrol, the engine can still continue to run.
The biggest question in people's minds that may make them hesitate is, how safe are the CNG converted cars? In 2007, researchers in Germany studied accidents involving cars that had been converted to CNG. They found that the most common cause of accidents involving CNG cars was in the way the system, especially the cylinders, were installed in the cars. So, if you get your car converted from a certified CNG conversion center, your risks will be lower.
But if you use the jerrycan boys, the guys who sell fuel on the black market, to do the conversion, then best of luck to you.
I am not an expert in natural gas, but I do recognize an opportunity to negotiate when I see one. Nigeria is one of the top 10 countries in the world with large reserves of natural gas. This fact presents two opportunities. Number one is an opportunity for we, the people, to negotiate with our government through organizations like the National Labor Congress, the NLC. And it's also an opportunity for our government to negotiate with global organizations like the IMF and the World Bank. Opportunity number one. Now that one actually has to do with the fuel subsidy. A few weeks ago, Nigerians made it clear that government should not even try to remove the fuel subsidy. The NLC and NANS, on behalf of the people, laid out a few conditions that must be met before government could remove fuel subsidy. One of those conditions being that we must have working refineries in our country. Now, I personally support the NLC and NANS positions, and I know that we've all been paying the price for that support. Nevertheless, we must continue to push government to provide alternative and sustainable energy supply for us before fuel subsidy can be removed. And perhaps we can add CNG to the negotiation table. Maybe we can agree to release government from a certain percentage of subsidy if they can give us a certain number of CNG stations in every major city, as well as a certain number of CNG converted cars. We would obviously need to do the math to make sure that what we give up in subsidy is near equivalent to what we get in CNG. So that's opportunity number one for negotiation. Another opportunity for negotiation has to do with current world events. Even though Nigeria is on the top 10 list of countries with huge gas reserves, Russia is number 1 on that list, and Russia supplies Europe with about 40% of the gas that Europe consumes. Obviously, things are not going so well between Russia and the rest of Europe at the moment. In fact, there is currently a $25 billion trans-Saharan gas pipeline project that is underway to take gas from Nigeria through Niger, Algeria, and Morocco and into Europe. Now, that project was initially discussed back in 2016, but obviously recent events in Europe will accelerate the project. And this is a very clear and obvious opportunity for us to negotiate with the IMF and the World Bank. It would be an absolute shame if after the pipeline is built, we still owe Europe any money. The Backstory is a Triple E Media production. Production copyright 2022 Triple E Media Productions. If you enjoyed this episode of The Backstory and you would like to hear more, go to our website at 234audio.com to play the sample content. Then download our app from the Google Play Store for even more episodes. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at 234audio to watch the video for this episode. Make sure to click the notification bell, like, and leave a comment. Our episodes can also be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment. This episode of The Backstory was produced by Rahmat Muhammad, Usamah Lucky, Alexandra Gekpe, Uche Mbah, Dominic Tabakaji, and Sam Tabakaji. Executive producer Rahmat Muhammad. Special thanks to Mala Iwa Gbado Ikaleku.